Okay, now after a little break. Okay, 51. Molly, deontic logic. This is logic involving moral issues. For example, out, may, or may not. Okay, now 52. Unknown. Using logic involving statements with commands. These are telling what to do. Now 53. Unknown. Temporal logic. Statements may be qualified by time since they may be true or only at a particular time. For example, the past, present, or future. Now 54. Unknown. Dynamic logic. Truth of statements may change with time. For example, as occurs after computation in a computer program. Now 55. Unknown. Epistemic logic. There is logical reasoning in the absence of complete information. That is, belief and knowing something to be true. Well, sometimes you have to choose a job or a wife without having complete information. Well, some people buy the lottery. I think last night they said it was like $60 million. A lot of people buy the lottery without complete information. They just take a gamble. Number 56. Unknown. Dialogue logic. The logic involving exchange between people. Well, a lot of people, there's going to be soon already, or maybe now already, debates for the leadership of the United States of America. I think they have elections very soon. Number 57. Lambert. Free logic. Logic involving the discussion of non-existing things, e.g. a fictional character in a movie. Number 58. Unknown. Non-monotonic logic, where adding a premise may lead to the rejection of the conclusion, unlike in monotonic logic. In other words, you may give an argument. All the premises are correct. All the inference rules are correct. The method is correct. Applied correctly, you get a conclusion, and still it is still false because you're missing one premise that changes the whole situation. In fact, brainwash might be sometimes like that because you have limited knowledge. Okay, now 59. Shaw, Quay, and Church. Relevant logic must be able to use all the premises in the deduction. Number 60. Unknown. Infinitary logic. Reasoning about things involving the concept of infinity. Aristotle and Kant gave major theories about the infinite, but their work is still inconclusive. In fact, maybe Kant even defined infinity wrongly. Aristotle believed that in an infinite magnitude is impossible, while Averroes argued that an infinite is either even or odd. So it cannot be magnitude because magnitude is only one of them. Well, I think infinity just means that it has the ability to go on forever. Number 61. Aristotle. Lewis. Modal logic. The logic which considers statements which are either necessary or possible. Number 62. Unknown. Recursive logic, using statements defined in terms of themselves. So for example, given a of 0 is equal to 2 and a of 1 is equal to 3, then a of n is equal to a of n minus 1 plus a of n minus 2 minus, where n is a subscript, and hence a of 2 is found to be 5. Well, you have to work backwards and to go. Number 63. Unknown. Mathematical induction. Proving a statement is true by first proving that it is true for some n, e.g. n equals 0, next then assuming that it is true for undetermined n, and finally using that to prove that it is true for n equals n plus 1. There may be a variation of this method which is used inductively on two variables simultaneously also. Instead of just one variable n, you might have m and n. or maybe many variables. So that method of proving things, mathematical induction. Number 64, unknown planning. Determining a set of actions to be performed to achieve some goal. These often differ from their logical reasoning in that the order of the actions is important. Conditional plans have actions which are to be taken place only if possible or ideal, depending on environment. I think when I took a course on artificial intelligence at McGill, we considered planning and algorithms for planning. But I don't think we did conditional planning. I think that was added later in artificial intelligence. Okay, number 6, this is from page 8. Number 65, Joseph, question mark. Logic of prophetical dreams. Interprets dreams from God. Well, my name is Joseph, or Joseph Beaton. In a way, I interpreted dreams from God because I interpreted some of the symbolism in the Bible. Really, Maimonides wrote the Guide of the Perplexed, which is like a whole new interpretation of the Bible, which is supposed to be the work of God. And I spent like 35 years studying Maimonides' Guide of the Perplexed, which is about the work of Moses. And it's very difficult to understand because he used symbolism there. Very often you have to draw the conclusion yourself. They say from Moses to Moses there was none like Moses. Right now in the where I volunteer at the Jewish General Hospital, they just joined it very recently to a network. Now it's joined to Maimonides Home and Hospital for the Aged in Côte Saint-Luc, which is very expensive. Well, now I think they added Berman in front of the name also, because they must have made a big donation. Maimonides was also a doctor. They joined Maimonides and also Mount Sinai, plus some clinics from the West End of Montreal to the Jewish General Hospital as a network. I think Lawrence Rosenberg, I think, is the CEO right now. So where I work now, it's joined to Maimonides. And it's Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is in a way, it's Moses, the first Moses. Maimonides is the second Moses. And the Jewish General now is joined to that now. But McGill University is joined with those, but McGill also just recently, last year in April, they opened the super hospital. Okay, number 66, Freud, question mark. Logic of dreams associated with health or mental illness. Number 67, Ezekiel, question mark. Logic of visions, question mark. Interprets visions from God. Number 68, Jacob, question mark. Logic of prophetic parables, or is it Solomon, question, King Solomon, question mark. Number 69, unknown. Logic of imagination, artistic expression. You have art critics who interpret art. Literary criticism. Number 70, unknown. Delusional logic, the world of logic which includes a false belief. Is it Pinel, since he argued that you can reason with the mentally ill? Number 71, unknown. Logic of hallucinations, reasoning while reality is transformed by visual, auditory, or other content which is not really there. What about something not there when it is really there? Case, question mark. Is it Pinel, since he argued that you can reason with the mentally ill, question mark. 72, unknown. Logic by analogy. Given a phenomenon and its consequences or laws, formulas too, question mark. In one science, then similar consequences or laws or formulas may apply to similar phenomena in another science. Kant argued the principle of analogy may not apply to us and God. Even Maimonides and the sages of the Talmud seem to think that there is no likeness between man and God. Moses and Ezekiel seem to think that there was a likeness between man and God. In the image of God created he them. Number 73. Unknown logic of subset, e.g. a law or treatment good for lower animals is good for man, or which is a higher animal too. It is not an Aristotelian syllogism, since not by necessity, question mark. Now a similar thing with also if something applies to man, maybe you can, by reasoning, by analogy, you can say applies to God, like that's just who is a higher level being. Number 74, unknown logic of dependence. If one fails while another as well, and if one part fails while another as well and is fixing one fix the other, then they are dependent. Otherwise they are independent. Need independence of axioms, question marks. 75, unknown logic of correlation. If two events are correlated, i.e. increase or decrease of both in a uniform way, then they may be causally related, or cause and effect, or they may not be causally related. This correlation is from statistics. Or probability. Number 76, unknown structural logic. If have equilibrium, if structure is stable, then have at least two opposing forces, balance, reciprocal causality, e.g. electric repulsion of protons between each other, and same for electrons in an object, and gravitational attraction between protons and also between electrons. Question mark. Besides, electric attraction between electrons and protons and gravitational attraction includes neutrons. EM force or color force is strong, predominate over the gravitational force. EM force or Coulomb force is stronger, says predominate over the gravitational force. Okay. Number 77, functional logic. If there is some change, then it presupposes other change and so on, until arrive at the agent changing without being changed by anything. It is immutable for Aristotle. Or does it go to infinity, question mark? But freedom may be possible, since Aristotle proves that nothing can move itself is not valid, even if grant that object is not simple, since his Gedanken experiment is not good. He considers dividing the self-mover, but that is not permitted, since it would destroy the subject who is the source of motion. That is Aristotle's proof against freedom. Maybe he creates a fallacy by dividing it too far, so he destroys its ability to be free. This is from page 9. Number 78, unknown generating functions have two kinds: ordinary, which are polynomial, and exponential generating functions. An abstract problem-solving technique but the easiest way to model many combinatorial problems. A. Ordinary generating functions g of x is defined as a polynomial with coefficient a of r being the number of ways to select t to select r objects in a certain procedure. It is applied to multiplication of polynomials to find coefficients, integers, applied to selection with repetition independent of order of selection, applied to distribution of identical objects independent of order. Okay, and B, exponential generating functions g of x is defined as the polynomial expansion of the exponential function where A of R is the number of arrangements or distinct object distributions with R objects. It is applied to solving problems involving arrangements and combinations of distinct objects. Two steps. A. Arrangements of objects with repetition, which is equal to selection with repetition and positioning, and B. Distribution of a distinct objects, which is equal to selection of objects with positioning. Okay, actually, the lottery is very deceptive. It looks so easy. You just have to pick 6 numbers out of 49. My goodness, and you win $60 million or whatever. Oh, a child could do it. But I don't know, really? I don't know, somebody said the odds are like 1 in 14 million. If you create, what you're doing is selecting 6 out of 49. Well, in this case, the order doesn't matter. So it's not permutations, combinations. But if you calculate all the possible arrangements, I mean, it's so many, the odds are it's deceptive. In a way, the government is deceiving people. It's making them look like it's easy. Lottery is the opposite of insurance. Insurance is you just get something, hopefully, in case something bad happens to you. The odds are against it. And lottery is the opposite. It's in case something good, you just think something happens to you, then you'll be rewarded. Both ways you'll get money. But both of them are very, the odds are way against it. So it's like paying, in a way, paying taxes also. It's like you pay insurance. But you're paying also for services that you need. 79. Taylor question mark. Taylor series expansion logic. Expand a function as an infinite series. If stop at some point, then calculate the area resulting from this. But you can calculate from the last term of the series where you broke off. Coefficients are given by derivatives or partial derivatives depending on number of variables in the equation. Some experts say really it is Newton who discovered this law, not Taylor. Number 80, L'Hopital. He created what is known as L'Hopital's logic. Take the derivative of the numerator f of x and the derivative of the denominator g of x in calculating the limit of the function f of x divided by g of x. Instead of calculating the limit directly, so I can see if the limit is finite or infinite. A limit, which is used in calculus to define the derivative and the integral, is just the value a function tends to when part of it tends to a certain number. Well, derivative, for example, is defined like derivative of f of x with respect to x is equal to the limit as delta x approaches 0 of f of x plus delta x minus f of x divided by delta x. You can use limits to calculate derivatives, but it's too much work. I mean, most people use like symbolism, like so like ddx of f of ddx, and so the of x squared is 2x. We don't use limits. Okay, number 81, unknown ratio test. Take the ratio of n plus 1. Take the ratio of the n plus 1 term divided by the n term of an infinite series to see if the series converges, i.e. has an asymptote, or converges or diverges. Note, series can be alternating with positive and negative terms, so need to take absolute value of numerator and denominator question mark. You may have an infinite series like 1 plus 6 plus 7 plus 9. Well, usually there's a pattern. Plus 9 plus all the way to infinity. So the question is, will it sum up to a fixed number, or will the total be infinite? Will it be like will the sum be 10, or a million, or will be infinite when you sum up the whole thing. Sometimes you can know it without summing up the whole thing. You can know it, which is interesting because it shows you like sometimes even infinite things we can know about them. And some people believe God is infinite, so that might be useful. Anyway, it's very powerful. You can know some things about infinity. Number 82, unknown, mapping logic. Go from one coordinate system to another to solve a problem, it being easier to solve in the new coordinate system. E.g., some problems are easier in polar coordinates instead of Cartesian coordinates. The Jacobian matrix is needed to add it to inside integral. If you integral in one coordinate system, if you want to do it in another coordinate system, you have to use the Jacobian.